It's still summertime. At least down here on Clearwater Beach, the sun is shining, the breeze is blowing, the sand is simmering, the waves are rolling, the outdoors are calling. So why in the world are we in here instead of out there? Now, at this time of year, the air conditioning might be very attractive. After all, despite the water and the wind, it's still pretty hot out there and muggy. But we can get AC in other places. And the image in my mind of sitting in a chair on the beach with a hot book in one hand and a cool drink in the other is rather attractive. Not that I'm suggesting that you get up and leave until I share the rest of my thoughts with you. It's still summertime. Some of you have come here from other places on vacation. Maybe back home you don't have the sun and the sand, the wind and the waves, although it might be just as hot. So you have come here to relax in a place that is different. But here you are in church. It's still summertime. Those of us who live here maybe all year long don't find the beach different. I just said that we live here. So it's not a case of having to get to the beach as often as we can or spending as much time there as possible because we will soon be leaving. But we, nonetheless, could also be doing other things at this time. We could be sleeping in. We could be having a leisurely breakfast in our homes or in a restaurant. We could be just goofing off because much of a week we can't goof off. But here we are in church. Why? Why do we come to church? Especially in the summertime when so much of our scheduled lives is scheduled differently. Especially in the summertime when overall there seems to be a different attitude concerning our activities and interests. Especially in the summertime, well, it's summertime. Beyond that, why come to church at any time? We always have alternatives and legitimate reasons for choosing to do something else on Sunday mornings, whether in the category of work or of play. Why are we here? Well, perhaps I can offer a few good reasons. You can add your own, depending upon your interests and circumstances. But I'd better come up with at least some decent answers to my own question, so perhaps you'll come again next Sunday. We come to church to worship. What do we mean by worship? Not too long ago, I would have gone to Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary for an answer. Now I go to Google. Anyhow, Google defines worship as to treat somebody or something as divine and show respect by engaging in acts of prayer and devotion, to take part in a religious service. Now, I'm not sure how helpful that is, but it at least gets us started. And it points a bit to what we do in worship. We sing, we pray, we listen to the music provided by professionals and or volunteers who sing and play appropriate, whatever that means, music, with some sort of religious background and or connection. We hear scriptural passages read to us and words delivered in a monologue by preachers with training and experience who we have hired to do just that. We follow various types of liturgies, formal or informal, in which we get to participate through unison or responsive readings, which are printed out for us in the bulletins. That's what we do in worship. And I will get back to this when I have finished the rest of my list of reasons. We come to church to learn. Some of this we receive in the service through the music and the readings and the sermon, all of which are, or at least should be, instructive and insightful, as they deliver messages, hopefully God-inspired messages, which are intended to offer advice and support regarding better living. And since church is more than just the Sunday morning worship experience, other opportunities are also offered to young and old of an educational nature. In this church, opportunities such as youth Sunday school, adult education classes including non-trivial pursuits, seminars, and teen activities. We come to church to offer support to others and to get support from others. When the church is what a church should be, it is like a family, a loving family. Of course, as with any family, there will be differences of opinion and outlook, but such differences will be expressed with love, and all the members will be there for each other in good times as well as in bad. Here we have a chance to meet the needs of those we care about while we uplift them physically and emotionally, the method and means depending upon the circumstances. And here we can come for help and support when we have such needs. Help and support from those who will respond without criticism or judgmentalism. Additionally, the church also offers us a means by which we can respond to the needs of those outside the church as we work together, perhaps through outreach agencies, to, as a group, make life better for others. We come to church because we are aware of our blessings and want to somehow express our gratitude and appreciation. Now, I suppose we can somewhat do this by just feeling happy and lucky, by just feeling good that all is going well and or that something specific has gone right, by just glowing in the realization that something positive has come our way. But if we believe that there is someone or something somehow behind our good fortune, well, then this is one place where we can say thank you. By the same token, when all is not going so well, and we believe that a greater power might help us to get beyond our trials and tribulations, then this is one place where we can say please. And that support of others, which I mentioned earlier, might be the response which pulls us through. We come to church because we feel that here we will be somehow and especially touched by the divine. And we want to be touched by the divine. Again, that touching might come through the touching of those around us in whom the divine is somehow manifested. Or it might come somewhat more directly as we perceive the presence of one we call God, felt and found by us in the building or the music or the words or the artwork or even just the liturgical communication and conversation created in and by the various elements of the worship service. We come because we believe that God is here. Somehow, somewhere, God is here. And we want to find God. We come to church so that we can be exposed to and learn from the faith of others. Faith articulated and demonstrated in and through their life stories. Life stories which tell us who they are and where they've been, and especially what has pulled them through when their times have been tough. Additionally, if we are open to and searching for answers to our faith questions, we appreciate the fact that the others in the church are there for the same reason. And we recognize that none of us has all the answers, but together with our differences, especially with our differences, we can find more of those answers than we can alone. There is no one way to God. There is no one way to live. There is no one right belief system. God is bigger than that, or he, she, it is not God. And in church, what you believe and what I believe and what he believes and what she believes can be brought into the open and shared as we mutually stumble around while seeking the light. We come to church with our families, if and when we have families with youngsters, to provide for them a religious foundation on which they can build their own faith systems. And in recognition that the future of our faith does not depend only upon us, but also that it will have no future unless we provide the means by which and upon which future generations can make decisions resulting in what they have learned, resulting from what they have learned and experienced with our support and encouragement in the here and now. To suggest that children should not receive religious education because we want them to later feel free to make their own decisions and go their own ways is ridiculous. Upon what will they make such decisions if they have no knowledge or experience on which to base them? If they don't know anything, they won't be able to say yes or no. They will just flounder around in a world of ignorance in which they will not be able to accept or reject. Now, this presumes, of course, that the kind of education they so receive leaves them free to accept or reject without condemnation if they should be ultimately drawn in other directions than our own. With all of that said, let me pose one more question. What is the purpose of the church? Is it mainly about theology, or is it mainly about helping people? The people within it and the people beyond it. I would suggest that the latter answer is the correct answer. Theology is important. It articulates what we believe about God and the relationship He and we share. But how those beliefs are implemented in our lives because of the impact they have upon our lives is what ultimately really matters. And this is where the church comes into the picture. This is where the church finds its primary role. This is where the church can be instrumental through us in changing the world. The authorship of Psalm 29 is ascribed to King David, written probably before he was a king, written perhaps when he was still a shepherd boy out in the fields watching his father's flocks. Regardless, this song, this poem, expresses his joy in being alive and his dependence upon a power greater than his own to get him through life. It reveals his awe at the mightiness of the divine as witnessed through acts of nature which David believes are somehow caused by the divine. And it demonstrates an attitude of worship. I've kind of come around full circle, and I am now somewhat back where I started from. So let me repeat at the end of this sermon the question I asked at its beginning. Why are we here? And with that, let me add what I also said I would return to regarding one reason for going to church: worship. If we come to church to worship, are we doing it for God or are we doing it for ourselves? Who needs this worship? Haven't we all been told at one time or another that God demands our worship? And indeed, there are some passages in the Bible which, especially if taken out of context, might support this idea. But I have a problem with it. If God is God, why would such an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing divinity worry about whether or not we worship him? Would such a God be so emotionally needy that our veneration or lack of it somehow determined his feelings about himself? Would such a God be deciding how to deal with us based on whether or not we sing songs and follow rituals and pray prayers in certain ways at certain times? Would such a God require that we wheel and deal with him before he shows his love for us? Much as primitive humanity believed, as evidenced by their offering sacrifices to appease him or bribe him or sway him. Is that what God wants or requires? I don't think so. But I would suggest that God would like us to recognize the ultimate source of our blessings and be grateful for them, and that we need to worship for our own sakes as one way of expressing our gratitude. But from God's perspective, I suspect that all he wants from us is to show our love for him by the way we love others. And the way we demonstrate our love for others by our actions and our attitudes is the most powerful way that we can and should worship. So, why church? This is one place where we can recharge our batteries for the living of our days. And surely we can all use a whole lot of that.